I think it's now 10:05, so I believe we need to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody logging in on time to be with us. And this Zoom meeting came about. This Zoom meeting, the idea for it came from Dr. Jim Butler. He's our chair of our Beef and Forage Committee with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension here in Brazos County. He had texted and asked about the program if we needed to be able to do something. So I got on it and started. All right, I'm getting some notes that say can't hear it. All right, so there is a message board on chat, if you will. There it is. That's everyone that's in it. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I
can hear you fine.
All right, so those of you that can't hear me, be sure and check to see if you're plugged in or turned up or anything like that.
I can hear you fine, Dustin.
Okay, we're getting, I talk too much. Thank you, Grange. The county agent in Caldwell, y'all just need to pick on him. He's a mean human being. So anyway, the idea came from Dr. Butler to try to disseminate some useful information as quickly as we can. Obviously, there's questions, and frequently people have the same questions. So by having this program, Jessica Thompson indicated that it shouldn't take too long. But it may help answer a lot of these common questions from the beginning. So there are a number of county agents involved, and I appreciate them helping spread the word. Its meeting is open to anybody that wants to participate, but we essentially just included Brazos and those contiguous counties. So that's kind of where it went, but it's open to anybody. It will be recorded. It is being recorded. You should be able to see it. And it will be saved and put on a YouTube channel. And that will be available for anybody to review or watch again or watch initially. So that will be available to everyone that'll be there. So anyway, with that, I will be quiet. And for questions, this is how we're going to try to do it. Miss Jessica Thompson is going to be speaking first. And when she gets started, she's going to share her screen so she cannot see the message board. So I'll keep an eye on that. And when there's a natural break in her presentation, she may stop at that point and ask me if there are any questions, and I'll just relay it on to her. And when she's finished, she will quit sharing her screen and she will go to the message board and she'll be able to see them at that point. So the main point is, please don't unmute and start asking questions. Let's allow her to work through her presentation. And then that's the same format we'll use for Mr. Nathan Filipello when he goes. All right, so at this time, I'm going to be quiet and introduce Miss Jessica Thompson, as she's one of the bosses with USDA NRCS in our local work area. So she can talk about everyone that she handles. All right, Jessica?
All right, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to put this screen back up, or this slide back up at the end when I'm done with the presentation. So if you're not able to get the information right now, I'll provide it again at the end. But my name is Jessica Thompson. I'm the County Executive Director for the Brazos, Grimes, Walker County FSA in our offices in Bryan, in Burleson County FSA office in Caldwell. So I've got both of our contact information on there, depending on what county you're from. That would be who you'd contact and reach out with. We're currently still not accepting visitors at this time at the office, but we are open for business every day. We can help you via email or through phone appointments. So that's how you can contact us. But again, we're still not accepting visitors. So please do call us or email us to set up an appointment that we can work with you over the phone or virtually. But I'm going to go through some information on two different programs, primarily as what we went through with the winter storm a couple of weeks ago that you may be eligible for. The first program that I'm going to speak about is the Livestock Indemnity Program, or the LIP program. And this program is going to be for any livestock deaths that you may have incurred because of the winter storm, and they were deaths directly attributed by the winter storm. So this program provides benefits to livestock owners for deaths in excess of your normal mortality. And that's an important thing also to remember, is in excess of normal mortality, because we'll go for mortality death rates as far as what is a normal number of deaths that we consider per year on your inventory. So one of the requirements for this program is going to be for you to provide us your total inventory, because we'll need to take into effect any prior deaths you had before the winter storm. That way we can calculate what that normal mortality is, and if you're eligible for any payments for anything that you had in excess, as far as winter storm related or not. So to be eligible, you must be a livestock owner that owned the livestock on the day of the loss, and it must have been a direct result of that eligible loss. One example of what a direct loss is, and it's not particularly with the winter storm, but in the event when we get hurricanes or flooding, I know that an indirect loss would be if livestock got stuck in the mud because of all that rain, and then 4 days later, because it never got out of the mud, it died. So that would be an indirect cause, because it was from the rain to the mud, they got it stuck, we never got pulled out. So that's just something, but specifically, I'm thinking everyone on this call is just going to be concerned about a couple of weeks ago with that winter storm that we had. So eligible livestock must have been maintained for commercial use. That means no FFA projects, no 4-H projects, no pets. They need to have been produced and maintained for reasons for commercial use only. And to be eligible for LIP, in addition to meeting the eligibility requirements, poultry, swine are also, I keep saying livestock, which of course poultry, swine, cattle are all in that, but primarily I think most of us might be beef. But the same eligibility requirements as far as being in possession on that day of the loss. And if you're a contract grower, a written agreement with eligible livestock owner settings, the specific terms must be provided to us as far as anyone with contract growers. So this program covers multiple eligible loss conditions. First one's going to be an adverse weather event, which is going to be the winter storm. We also cover floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes. Eligible disease and eligible animal attacks are also other loss conditions that are covered, but these are going to be specific to just a handful of diseases and very specific animal attacks that are going to be animals that are protected by the government and then reintroduced to the wild. So wild coyote or your neighbor's dog is not an eligible animal attack. But an eligible adverse weather event means an extreme or abnormal damaging weather that's not expected to occur during the loss period. So it being cold during the winter months, that is expected. What we're looking into account is extreme or abnormal, and we'll get into a little bit more specific what those conditions as far as what's extreme and what's abnormal during those normal times of the season that we're expecting for it to be considered eligible. Do we have any questions so far, Dusty?
Not yet.
Okay, great. So right here, the diseases that I was talking about is just a handful of diseases that are eligible loss conditions under this program, and as well include anthrax, cyanobacteria, and larkspur poisoning. So like I said, eligible diseases covered under this program are very specific. That was just something I wanted to throw out there. And as far as eligible loss conditions for animal attacks, means that their animals are reintroduced to the wild by the federal government or protected by federal law. So maybe like a bald eagle or something. Extreme cold threshold. This is something that is really important for us to discuss, because what I keep saying as far as an eligible loss condition for our specific scenario is going to be winter storm. Winter storm is one eligible cause of loss, and then we've also got extreme cold as a threshold. And so I want to point out extreme cold threshold because each different type of livestock has a specific temperature that has been set by the state committee as far as what that extreme cold is. So you can see on that second bullet, as far as beef cows, we're looking at -30 degrees. That would be extreme cold during the winter months. Because keep in mind, during winter months, it is expected for us to be cold. So when it gets pretty cold, this extreme cold really means extreme. And so these are numbers that have been set by the state office. Now, in our specific scenario, we were affected by Winter Storm Uri. So winter storm is going to be the eligible cause of loss that we're going to be filing on any notices of loss that you might have had a couple of weeks ago. Rather than extreme cold. I know myself personally, looking at the notice of loss after that temperature that we had, I wanted to get everyone set up as far as I knew we were going to be getting calls coming in last week. And to me, I thought they were actually interchangeable, pretty much synonyms, but extreme cold is something separate from the winter storm. And I don't necessarily think that we meet this extreme cold threshold. But I wanted to put it out there for y'all to see and let you know that winter storm is actually the notice of loss that we're going to be using as that eligible cause of loss. And so the way payments are calculated for this program is it takes your total death losses adjusted by that normal mortality that I mentioned. So we're looking at total deaths you've had for the year, whether it was natural or an eligible cause of loss under this program, and then we multiply it by that national payment rate. So normal mortality is something just to definitely keep in mind. Everyone's going to be different as far as what their, not the percentage of the normal mortality, but depending on what their inventory is, as far as how many head must have been lost in order for payments to start being calculated. So here's an example as far as somebody who had, let's see, it's going to be the national payment rate minus the sale price and their ownership. But that doesn't give us, the inventory is already calculated for us in the back. But I want to make sure everyone understands as far as normal mortality being included as part of the payment rate, which is why we're asking for your total inventory for us to figure out what we can pay in excess of that normal mortality. And so I'm going to ask Dusty for questions after this slide, because this is going to be the most important part. If y'all take anything from this presentation today as far as how to apply for this program. So in order to apply for the Livestock Indemnity Program, a notice of loss must be filed within 30 calendar days of when the loss of livestock was first apparent. So what this means is, I know the winter storm was primarily between the 14th and the 17th, the beginning part of the week. And a lot of you might have not been able to actually go out and travel to, let's say, maybe Friday. So I think that would put us maybe like on the 18th or something, 18th, 19th. So the actual day that you go out and see that you lost livestock from this, that's going to be the day it was apparent. And you've got 30 days to report that to us on an application. And so what you need to do now is, if you haven't already contacted us, is let us know so we can get you that application assigned. It's not going to be a completed application, because you're just filling out that first part, which is the notice of loss, saying that on this day you lost X amount because of the winter storm. And that's what's going to get the ball rolling for this program. And then in order to complete the application, for us to finalize it and make a determination as far as payment, it needs to be completed within 60 calendar days at the end of the calendar year. So that's going to put us, I believe, March 1st of 2022. So we've got time to finish it. And if you're thinking, you know, why is this going to take so long? I mean, I hope it doesn't take that long, but this is where it comes down to us working together and that applicant submitting their total inventory and submitting documentation on that loss. We're going to need reliable, verifiable information that we take to the county committee to show that this applicant did have 30 head before the winter storm, and we're able to support that inventory because he's got a ledger showing 30 different tag numbers, or he's got receipts from the sale barn showing 30 different times he purchased something, or he's got a ledger showing, you know, with something just showing he added, subtracted. I mean, your records that you keep to support that number, you can't just give us a number and then expect us to work from there. Including mortality, as far as any deaths that you had prior, we're going to need supporting documentation on that. And as far as the livestock that you lost because of the winter storm, we're going to need documentation on that as well. You can use a picture, but it must be date stamped. It needs to have some sort of proof showing that it was during that winter storm. You can have a vet certification. We have forms to provide to you if you need something like that to support that. But this is where it's going to take a little bit more work on your end as far as completing this application once you get that notice of loss filed. So as far as documentation, applicants must record all the information, including your number and kind. So I said, if an applicant had 30 head, are those all 30 mama cows? Is one of them a bull? Or 5 of them calves over 500 pounds? We need to have everything documented as far as the quantity and what type. And then, like I said, the loss documentation often consists of pictures that must have a date stamp on them. And we've got other ways that you can document that. I can provide that to you also. But this is a good time, and I'm sure y'all have got some questions now on this program before we move on to the next program. Anything come in, Dusty?
Yes. I had
Perfect.
one texted in, and the question is, registered or seed stock cattle, are
Okay.
they valued differently than just commercial or crossbred cattle?
That's a great question, and unfortunately the answer is no. There is a set price that's a national payment rate per head, dependent if it's an adult, non-adult, and they're all treated equally. But that is a great question.
So adult cow is adult cow regardless.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next one they're asking about, and there's only 2 messages or questions I see that are on chat. Where do they get the notice of loss form from? Can they download it at this fsa.usda.gov/disaster?
Yes,
or
sir.
is it something that extension agents can have available printed off so we can just give people? Where do they get that?
I'm going to say yes to all. You can get it at this website. I will, after this meeting, send them all to the extension agents. That way they'll have them available and they can provide them as well. And in turn, they'll submit them to our office, or they can contact the office directly and we can email it to them as well, just as long as they get it within that 30 days. So I know that the clock's already started ticking on that, but we've definitely still got some time for any new customers that might be on this call that are interested and think they're eligible for us to get that in. But yes to the website, yes to the extension agent, and yes to contacting us.
All right. So if, with that in mind, if you already have that in a digital format and you can send it to me,
Yes.
we will share it with, we have this email list. We'll go ahead and send it to everybody that registered.
Perfect.
Just so we can make sure they get that form right out of the box. Okay?
Excellent. That's a great
If
idea.
you don't have it, then we'll download it and we'll send it from here as well.
Sounds good.
The next question is, what type of proof is needed to show death loss? What proof are you looking for?
So let's see.
And then also you talked about photos. What if the
Yes.
photos are not time stamped, date stamped?
That's where it comes down into, we've got a certification form that they can use, and I'll provide that to y'all after this meeting also, so we can send it on that email blast. And I'll provide a direct list of all the different types of documentation that we can accept, because I mean, it's definitely not going to be an end all be all. The county committee is ultimately the one that reviews each application that comes in and makes those determinations. I mean, fortunately, this storm was so widespread that, I mean, it affected everybody here, that it's not an obscure loss that we're going to have a hard time scratching our head as far as whether it was a legitimate loss directly from this weather event or not. But we'll work with everybody individually as far as making sure that we can get something verifiable for the county committee.
All right, so this certification that you're describing could be used in lieu of pictures.
In lieu of, or in addition to, if they've got pictures without the timestamp, I don't want to say not to submit them, but we're definitely going to need something in to support that. So
okay, so if someone was out checking and they just didn't take any pictures, and it's, you know, been a bit, and now all of our carry-on feeders have taken advantage of opportunities, what do they do then?
And they didn't take a picture?
Yeah, what if they didn't?
We'll have to work on it with them individually, because we're going to need documentation.
Okay.
They're still out there. The carcass is still out there. We might be able to get a picture of it now and determine as far as the level of deterioration, how long it's been out there. So,
Okay.
like I said, we'll be able to work with everybody individually on their own case if need be.
All right. And then I had a question get emailed. Are exotic deer covered?
If they're for commercial use only. So yes, we can cover that.
Okay. Those are all the questions that were texted, emailed, or put on the message board, the chat.
Perfect. Great. So this next program I'm going to talk about is the Emergency Loss Assistance Program, which we call ELAP. And there's two different routes or two different types of animals that this program is going to cover. And it's going to be, one is livestock, and the other is going to be honeybees and farm-raised fish. I'm not going to talk about farm-raised fish, just honeybees and livestock. The livestock has their own application separate from the honeybees. So when inquiring about this program, it's important to let us know what type of animal that you're going to be trying to apply for under this program, because it has its own application.
Hey, before you run off,
yeah,
on the next one, I had a question come in on the livestock side. The question is, why are bison valued more than cattle? Do you know why?
No, sir. That's a number that's set at the national level. I can find out and give you some more information once I get that information.
Okay.
But off the top of my head, I don't know that.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
I'll be quiet.
No, you're fine. So ELAP covers losses as far as feed and grazing losses, water transporting costs due to drought, which is not going to be something that we're talking about for this specific weather event we had, and any additional losses associated with cattle tick fever. So primarily, as far as dealing with the winter storm for livestock under ELAP, I'm thinking we're going to be looking at feed losses and grazing losses. For livestock feed and grazing losses, they must be grazing animals. They must have normally been grazing that eligible pasture land if they're if the applicant's trying to file for grazing losses, and again be owned during the time of the loss and maintained only for commercial use. Grazing losses is going to be if you had to remove them from the pasture because of this this weather event, and so you lost those days that the animal would normally be grazing. Don't know that is necessarily going to be something that we're worried about right now, because I know unless you have an improved grass planted or a winter cover that you planted that they would have normally been grazing during this time. But as far as native grasses, this probably isn't going to pertain to you because they normally wouldn't be grazing during this time. But as far as any hay or purchase feed that you're having to have fed more than normal because of this, this is something that may be covered under this program for you. So let's see. These are the eligible weather or loss conditions for this program: blizzard, winter storm, flood, hurricane, lightning, tornado, wildfire. Again, this program is year-round that covers any of these types of eligible adverse weather conditions. We're just going over it specifically because of the winter storm we had a couple of weeks ago. An eligible winter storm is an event that is so severe as to directly cause loss and last in duration for at least 3 consecutive days, which includes a combination of high winds, freezing rain or sleet, snowfall, and extremely cold temperatures. So I would say that that's something that we definitely fell under during those couple of weeks. As far as grazing losses, they must have been incurred on the grazing lands physically located in the county where the eligible weather event occurred. So feed losses. Eligible feed losses under ELAP for livestock includes purchased forage or feedstuff, mechanically harvested forage or feedstuff, the result of additional cost incurred for transporting feed to the eligible livestock because of the eligible adverse weather condition, and resulting in additional cost of purchasing additional feed above normal quantities required to maintain that eligible livestock during an eligible adverse weather until the feedstock becomes available again. Something to keep in mind as far as purchasing additional feed above normal. What's going to take some work with the applicant as far as completing this type of application once the notice of loss gets filed is establishing what is a quantity so we're able to determine what was actually additional. So this type of loss is going to ask us, or is going to require us to ask the applicant to submit receipts from the past 2 years as far as purchase feed. That way we're able to determine what you normally purchase in a given year for us to determine this was what was purchased above normal during this time during the winter storm. So again, this application is going to have a notice of loss that gets filed. We're setting the stage for this application for this program, and then it's going to take some work on your end to complete this. So that's what we're going to be something that we'll be needing to look at for this program for feed losses for livestock. And as far as it being a continuation from that slide, resulting from additional costs of purchasing additional feed above normal quantities. That was for livestock. I know I kind of went through that fast. It's a separate program from the first one, which was deaths. This one I just spoke about was going to be as far as any feed loss. Dusty, do we have any questions come in on feed loss for livestock?
Yes, but it was more about water.
Okay.
If lost electricity and the pumps were not running and they were hauling water, expenses related to that, whether it's just fuel, diesel, or what if they were having to purchase water? Is water in that same ballpark as the feed?
If their pumps were turned off, that would not be eligible. We're talking about if it got froze over and they were not able to access it that way. It needs to be a direct natural cause.
So losing power due to the weather event, so the pumps don't work, does not qualify because they lost electricity to the pump?
Correct.
What if the pump froze up and couldn't work, but they still had electricity?
We would need documentation to support that. Okay.
And if the pump, something on it broke because of the freeze?
That's something that we would just, I'm sure would be a specific scenario with certain people. So we would need to work with that because, again, it comes back, something that always gets reviewed at is management practices. So something the county committee is going to want to know is what management practices were taken before the storm. Were these pipes wrapped? Were they not wrapped? So
Okay.
Again, it's everyone's going to be in their own scenario, I'm sure.
Okay. So rolling blackouts don't impact this at all.
Correct.
All right. What if somebody typically raises all their own hay and they're in good shape, but because of the extended cold, they had to go purchase hay?
That's something that's definitely covered.
Okay. Okay. I'm going over the messages right now, trying to
No
summarize
problem.
2 into 1 or something.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right, so ELAP also covers honeybees. I am going to throw this out there because if we've got some honeybee producers on this call, they might not know that this program also covers colony collapse disorder year-round, not just for winter storm, but colony collapse disorder is its own eligible loss condition. So this might be a new program that you're hearing about that you may be interested in participating in the future, separate from the specific winter storm that we're talking about. But eligible honeybees include bees housed in a managed hive used for honey production, pollination, and honeybee breeding. Again, commercially. This is not for a backyard project or a hobby. There needs to be an income coming in for this. Colony, hive, and feed losses must be due to an eligible adverse weather and incurred by the producer in the county where that loss condition occurred. So sometimes we've got honeybee producers that ship their colonies elsewhere during winter months. If your bees were not physically in Brazos, Grimes, Walker, Burleson County, whatever county you're in from right now that was affected by that winter storm, your bees must have physically been in this county the couple of weeks that we had that winter storm. So eligible loss conditions for this program for honeybees, like I mentioned, colony collapse disorder, eligible winter storms. So only colonies are going to be covered for this winter storm, not hives. And then we've got wind, flood, hurricane, lightning, tornadoes, like the other, like we did for livestock. And that's why there's 2 separate applications that I had mentioned earlier, as far as one for honeybee and one for livestock, is because honeybee is going to have colony collapse disorder as an eligible loss condition that you can check off on that application. So eligible losses for colony, hive, and feed must, did I go backwards? Yeah, I think I might have gone backwards. Okay, sorry about that. So required documentation for honeybees, we need to have proof of beginning inventory for the program year. So that's going to include a report of acreage. And this is not a lid, this is just how we can submit your inventory. It's not exclusive, just a different list of how we can support it. But this might also be good for the livestock as far as any loan records, insurance documents, property tax records, something just supporting that inventory you had for us to verify the number that you're reporting. And for eligible honeybee colony losses, we're going to need the application, proof that you're following best management practices, and any additional documentation that you might have. This goes also, that last bullet, a written lease statement, this is going to go for livestock owners as well. If you're leasing land, we're going to require a lease documenting that you have risk and control of the land that you're operating your operation on if you don't own it. And the SDA National Payment Factor, this is socially disadvantaged. An eligible livestock producer who certifies they're socially disadvantaged, limited resource, or beginning or veteran farmer will receive a 90% payment rate, whereas a non-socially disadvantaged customer is going to receive 70% of the payment rate. And this certification is on a form that I'll provide to the extension agents after this meeting with the application too. That way, if you feel that you meet any of these requirements, you can certify to that form that you are socially disadvantaged and receive a higher payment rate. So how to apply for this program? The application period ends December 31st. So this is different from the LIT program that application period is March 1st. ELAP is December 31st. So in addition to submitting an application for payment, producers who suffer losses need to submit their notice of loss, to us, and that's going to be within 30 days after the loss is apparent for livestock and 15 days after the loss is apparent for honeybees. So this puts us in a crunch for honeybees because we're already going to be meeting those 15 days pretty soon this week. So if you're a honeybee producer that lost colonies from the winter storm, please be sure to contact the county office sometime this week so we can get your notice of loss in, because you have 15 days from when you notice this loss to report it to us. And livestock, you have 30 days. And from there, like I said, once we get the notice of loss, that's how we get the ball rolling, and then we'll work with you in attempt how to complete that application by either the December 31st deadline of ELAP or March 1st for LIP. So I know you just got a lot of information thrown out at you. I'm going to make this presentation available to the extension agents as well. That way y'all can have it, provide some fact sheets along with the applications and the SDA certification. Basically give them all the tools to help you. You can get them online as well or get them through our office. But if you take anything from this meeting, it's basically, I want to go back to the front. It's basically just to report that notice of loss, because we have a time frame, especially the honeybees, that is 15 days. So I'll open it up for any new or remaining questions we might have. That way Nathan can start talking about farm loans available.
Jessica, I've got a couple questions and then others can ask if it works out. Back on the LIP,
Okay.
on exotic deer, are there different value rates based on if they are babies, does, or bucks?
There may be between adults and young. I'm not positive. There may be, but I want to say it's just going to be deer, and it's going to be a flat rate across.
Okay, but they can check with y'all for
Definitely
clarification.
so. Definitely so.
All right, and the other one was for bees. You use the term colony and hive. Will you
Yes.
distinguish what you're saying today? I mean, between the two?
Colony is going to be the queen. No, I'm sorry. Colony is going to be the house, and the hive is going to be the queen. I believe sometimes honeybee people, those terms might be opposite with them, but for FSA purposes, colony is the house, the box that holds them. Sometimes there's multiple hives in a colony. There can be one-to-one, but also there could be multiple hives in one colony. The colony is going to be the actual box.
Okay. All right. There was a follow-up on the LIP stuff on the deer. Today's March 1. So is today the deadline?
No, sir. This is March 1, 2022 of next year.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all that's been sent to me. If somebody wants to unmute and ask a question, or we can move on to Nathan and then do that part later on.
Yeah, I think we should move on to Nathan, because I hate taking up so much time, and I want to make sure that everyone gets the information they want from today.
Okay.
Cool.
Nathan, you still there?
I'm here.
All right. Be sure and lean in so we can hear you pretty good. Our next presenter is Mr. Nathan Filipello. He's a farm loan manager with the USDA-FSA, the other part of USDA.
All right. So there's my name, title, and email, address, and phone number. I'm located in Franklin, Texas. I'm the other half of what Jessica does, where she does grants, I do loans. Our loan program hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 80 years. So I'll go over some of the stuff, provisions. So the FSA program, the farm program is what Jessica covered. I'm the farm loan. We do direct farm ownership loans, operating loans, guaranteed loans. We have some youth loans, emergency loans, and some conservation type loans. I'll go a few. So, there's some information there to get started with FSA and whatever your needs are, whether they're grants or loans or what have you, disaster assistance. Whenever you come into the office, we would need this information. That you can go through that. So on the farm loans, we have a direct farm ownership loan, which this is money that the government directly loans out to you. And we can use those, we can use that to buy land, equipment, cattle, operating money, any agricultural related type use, what we can use the funds for. The guaranteed loan is the bank makes you a loan. We just guarantee it in case of default. We're more the bank is our customer. And then a youth loan is a loan that we can use to buy youth youth projects such as FFA projects, show cattle. You can use it to buy cattle to run with your parents, grandparents, or whatever. There's a slide that just says what I just said. We can loan on the guaranteed loans. We can loan up to 90%. Provide a 95% guarantee if the applicant is a socially disadvantaged applicant, which would be women and minorities. So we had a few changes during the 2018 Farm Bill. Our loan limits increased. We come out with a micro loan, which is for 50,000 or less. It's some less paperwork. I think the limits are here. So I cover 10 counties around Franklin, but we have every county covered in the U.S. It just depends on what county you're in and to what office you would go to. We will help you with filling out the paperwork. Right now, our office is still closed, like Jessica said, but we can help you over the phone. We can meet you on the porch, which sounds crazy, but we have been meeting people on the porch to help them fill out the application. But we can, talk to you over the phone as well. So there's our loan limits. Our regular loan limit, we can go up to 600,000 on a farm ownership loan. A farm ownership loan is a land type of loan to purchase land. We have a farm ownership microloan, which we rarely use, is 50,000. The direct farm operating loan is 400,000. That's money you can use for purchase of equipment, cattle, operating money. The microloan limit is 50,000, which the microloan is basically the same uses as the regular loan. It's just a little less paperwork you have to fill out. And then the youth loan is up to $5,000. Emergency loan, which can kick in here for this winter storm. We probably won't use it much in this area, but it is probably in great benefit to some of those citrus growers down in the valley, because unless you just lost a whole herd of cattle or something, it wouldn't help you much. And the guaranteed loans is adjusted annually. Right now, it's $1,750,000 adjusted annually. Based on inflation, so that number changes. Those limits on the direct loans, they rarely change. That in 2018 they went up for the first time in probably 50 years. But it was needed because of the price of land and equipment and cattle and stuff. So our eligibility requirements, some is you have to be unable to obtain sufficient credit elsewhere at a commercial bank, be U.S. citizens. We look at credit. You have to be the owner operator of a family farm, not delinquent on federal debt, not cause agency any loss in the past, not been convicted of planting or growing a controlled substance. So in order to qualify for a farm ownership loan, you have to have 3 years out of the last 10 owning or operating a farm or ranch. You can't substitute one of those years if you have a college degree or some kind of business experience. There's some provisions there if you're a veteran and you've went through a veteran program, you can qualify for that without the experience. So we also look at cash flow. Whenever you apply for a loan, we want to ensure that you're going to be able to repay the loan. So we do a business plan with you that projects out the payment and expenses and your current debts and current income. It's a global business plan that we look at. We look at your current income, current debts, current expenses, current assets and projected income and projected expenses to develop our plans and see. We do require collateral for all of our loans. We have to have some kind of collateral. There's a bar training program that's required. If you have a college degree, we can waive that. Or if you had some, if you went through the beef short course, something like that, we could waive that training. So there's the purposes of our loan program: purchase livestock, production expenses, refinance existing loans. Right now, our interest rates on land is 2.75, and on operating loans is 1.375. That changes monthly, but it is fixed if you get the loan for the life of the loan. We can go 7 years on operating loans, up to 40 years on land loans. Has anybody got any questions?
Nathan, none have been submitted for you yet.
Okay, hope I haven't put them all to sleep.
Nah.
Okay, the youth loans, you have to be between the ages of 10 years old and 21 years old. After you're 18, you can get a regular loan. You must have recommendations from advisor, 4-H ag teacher, or FFA advisor. Farm ownership loans there, like I said, we can go up to 40 years. Micro loans, we can go to 25 years on the land, on micro loan land. And then you can purchase land, make capital improvements, promote soil and water conservation. We can even pay for loan closing costs to get the loan closed. We can't loan more than appraised value of the land to be purchased. So if the land appraises for more, then the purchase price, we can throw in some closing costs. If it doesn't, then you don't have to pay the closing costs out of pocket. We don't require any down payments. We'll loan 100% of appraised value. And this is the beginning farm ownership down payment program that we have. We can participate with lenders. For instance, if a piece of our loan limit is $600,000 and the piece of property you want to buy is $1 million, well, we can loan $600,000. Another lender can loan $400,000, and we can we'll take second lien behind the lender. Of course, the lender has to agree to participate with us and sign some documents at closing. But this talks about a beginning farmer down payment where FSA can loan up to 45%, but that's just one of our programs. We can do it. We can loan any amount if the lender's willing to do a portion of the loan. And that one's max. That's a 20-year loan. We very rarely use that program. And that tells you what the interest rate is. It's a 2% maximum of 2.5% if you're in that program. And under that program, you have to throw some money in it as well. Emergency loan program. We'll be under the disaster declaration because of the winter storm, and you could qualify for emergency loan. The emergency loan rate is 3.75, which is higher than our regular rate now. So, if you don't need $500,000, we loan up to $400,000 on a regular at a cheaper interest rate. So, the emergency loan was created years ago, when we had real high interest rates, and, 15% interest and stuff like that. That loan was created back then to provide low interest loans to farmers and ranchers when a disaster occurred. It's really not utilized a whole lot anymore because we can do the same thing under a regular program at a cheaper interest rate. But it is guaranteed loans. They're like I said, they're funded by the lender. We just guarantee it, similar to the Small Business Administration loans, but they're related to agriculture. We have some lenders in the area that participate with us. Capital Farm Credit is one. They're a PLP, what we call a PLP lender, which is a preferred lender where they don't have to provide as much documentation to us on their loans, and they, they're real efficient with our and knowledgeable about our guaranteed loans. We use them quite a bit. There's another local lender here, Farmer State Bank, that utilizes our guaranteed loan program with us as well. Any bank can participate as long as they're willing to sign a lender's agreement with us. The interest rate is set by the lender. We don't have any say in whatever their rate is. It can be fixed or variable. So that just tells you how the funding is appropriated by Congress. Being a veteran or socially disadvantaged or beginning farmer doesn't necessarily get you anything better interest rate or some of the provisions don't apply. It just sets aside money for those in those categories where if we get depleted in our regular funding, then we save money for beginning farmers, veterans, or socially disadvantaged applicants. And that tells you what the definition is of socially disadvantaged applicant. So just like I told you, it targets funds to those groups of applicants. And then the farmer, beginning farmer is one that's not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years. That's the does not own a farm greater than 30% of the average size farm in the county. So if you own a bunch of land already, you probably won't qualify as a beginning farmer. And then that's just our tool there. If you want to go to that on our website, you can use that tool, the discovery tool, and ask some questions. So that's the that's the gist of my program. If anybody has any questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that last slide may have answered one of them, and which was, what's the best way? What's the ideal way to initiate one of these loans? Is it via the internet, like that last slide? Or is
Well,
it?
no, that's one way, but that's not the best way. The best way I got up right now, my phone number or email and my email address. We can email you an application, or if you have questions, you can call me directly on that phone number right there listed, and I can answer any questions. If I have an assistant, if I'm not around, her name is Samantha Cato, you can talk to her. She's knowledgeable in the program. She can send you email you an application or answer any questions that you might have.
All right. I had another one come in while you were.
Way.
Another one came in while you're responding that says, if you've already had a loan and paid it in full, can you apply for a second loan on a different property?
So your eligibility on land is 10 years. If your loan was outstanding for 10 years or more, then you're no longer eligible for another land loan. You can still be eligible for an operating loan for cattle or equipment and stuff like that. But if it was out, you have a 10-year window there of eligibility on land.
All right. Well, this question reads that it was paid in full, not outstanding.
Yeah. Well, if it was paid in full, but if you paid it in full after 5 years, you still could qualify. But if your loan was outstanding for 11 years and then you paid it in full, then you're no longer eligible.
Okay. All right. I do have a couple of other questions, and really, I think you kind of answered one of them. You put a slide up there. So this question will be for both Nathan, you and Jessica. Somebody asked, can you go over the slide regarding socially disadvantaged? What is the payment rate you were referring to? I think this was more when Jessica was talking, but you addressed it too.
Oh, well, on the loan program for socially disadvantaged, the payment, I mean, your payment terms are the same on loans, whether you're socially disadvantaged or not. Your interest rate would be the same.
Okay.
It's just, it saves money where you may get funded, or if you weren't socially disadvantaged, you wouldn't get funded.
Okay.
Right now, we're funding in all categories. So.
All right. Thank you. Jessica, you still with us?
Yeah, so the national payment rate for that program, normally it pays 70% of that payment rate, but if you certify as socially disadvantaged, you'll get 90% of that payment rate.
Okay. I believe that answered the call or the question. And the last question that I have at the moment has to do with bees back again. And it says, some of my hives were weakened because of the loss of bees and brood, or weakened because of the weather. And what if it's a weak hive today, or it was, but ends up dying off? Are they still eligible?
No, that would not be a direct loss.
Okay. Okay. So just because they're stumbling around now, almost knocked out, if they go ahead and fall out, it doesn't count.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the messages or questions that were sent or emailed to me. Do y'all want to, people, if they want to unmute and ask, or if they can keep typing them in, or both of you shared your email addresses. So if this presentation is going to be available, and we can also provide your contact information when we do all the rest, they can send questions directly to either of you.
I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Here's a new message from somebody. Can you use feed total cost from prior year taxes?
Yes, that would be acceptable.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions? These are good. All right. Hearing none. Jessica, Nathan, thank you for taking time to visit with everybody today.
Thanks for having me.
So to the group that's still with us, when we get everything, we will forward information on to the group that they'll be able to use. Now here's somebody asking about going over the calculation rate for livestock. I think this is going back. Is she still with us? Jessica? Yeah, she's still here. Somebody typed in real quick, going over the calculation rate for livestock.
As far as they're wanting to know how that the calculation works for their program. I'm not sure I'm following what they're asking, but they can email me and we can go through that together if they want.
Okay, very good. I have the name of the person that asked it, so I'll go ahead and share your stuff when we're done.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.